labor supply and different resources, but it sure is different, and I think a lot better than it was a year ago or back during the recession in '09, 2010, 2011. So again, appreciate all of you for what you do. Today we're going to talk a bit about TRI and some of the thoughts that have been going on in that arena. So I know Susie's going to walk you through the PowerPoint presentation and get into a little bit more detail. But first of all, I want to say Susie and her team, she leads the team for the business attraction group here at Commerce, is been very busy for the last 12 months in particular, but busy before that. So a lot of interest in TRI, a lot of interest just in general in terms of Idaho and different options here across the state. But over the last couple of years, a couple of things we've looked at with respect to TRI is how is it working? You know, it's been around a while, and then it's gone through a couple of different challenges through the court system. And finally, the last court challenge was approved by the Supreme Court, Idaho Supreme Court, just about a little over a year ago. Since that time, we've looked at the governor's office, EAC, our team have looked at different elements of the TRI, and we just want to make certain it's competitive and that we're following a protocol or a pathway to make certain companies that want to take advantage of TRI are basically meeting all the tests, whether it be the number of people by rural versus urban, but also keeping up with meeting and exceeding the average county wage. So that's a tweak here that Susie's going to talk about that the EAC folks have approved recently, and we want to talk about what it means and what it will be like going forward. But in general, it's a tweak or a change to have that company, whoever receives the TRI, to have to make certain they keep up with whatever wages are over the time or life of their TRI award. So Susie, did I cover it pretty much, or you want me to talk anything further about commerce across the state?
I think you did. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, if there's any questions for me, I'm happy to take those. Otherwise, we know all of your time is precious, and we do have a purpose here for the call, so I'll kick it back to Susie and the team to go forward.
Thank you, Tom. Eva, who is also on the call, wanted me to remind everyone that we are recording this. So if any of our teammates across the state weren't able to attend, they can give us a call and we'll let everyone know, and we can direct them to a website so that they could hear the recording. So I guess we start out with the big hello. For all of you who are interested, we found out that Teams can accommodate 250 different participants. And that's kind of hard to fathom. I recently read an article that said, you know, no one likes a close talker, someone who's right here. But the reason some of these video calls can be so stressful is because you have multiple people in your space. And I can't imagine if you had 250 people on a call. I think that might be kind of stressful to your mind. But hello, good afternoon. Eva's going to run the show for me. So Eva, if you can go to the next slide. Hello, Idaho teammates, and congratulations. Next slide, you can tell that I believe TRI has been a game changer for the state. It's just been a resounding success. That's how we feel. But if you want to look at statistics, on the next slide, our overall results for plan to date. Ooh, go back one slide. There you go. And since its inception, we have approved 80 projects. And what that means is 80 different businesses filled out the application. They submitted the application, they were scored, they were presented to EAC, and EAC gave them an award amount, sent them a letter. So we have 80 overall that we have facilitated. And if you took all of the jobs of those 80s and added them together, it's 113,193 at an average wage at 51,475. Total payroll has been 6.4 billion. Direct sales tax 908 million. Total capex 3.1 billion. Our average award is 21% for 10 years. Although we say you can go up to 30 for 15, and certainly we have had projects that high, our average is right in that sweet spot of 21 for 10. And the total value of the incentives is 231 million. Now, of the 80 who applied, went in front of the act, were awarded, we have about 8 who did not proceed with their project for one reason or another. So still 90% go through rate is pretty darn good. So on the next slide, this is something we also hear from you, and we talked about it, I think, at every TRI presentation we've ever given. How does it break out between urban and rural, new and existing? Between urban and rural, which were neck and neck, they're not quite neck and neck anymore. Rural is 56% of the awards have been rural, 44% have been urban, but new and existing are really still neck and neck, 51% new, 49% existing. And of course, when you're working with a low number like 80, these percentages can change quickly if we have a couple of either one. But the bottom line is they're still evenly distributed, and that's exactly what the legislature was hoping for when they approved this award. So now let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about this small change to the TRI process. Next slide. As you know, in order to qualify for TRI, a business has to create 20 net new jobs if they're in a rural location, 50 in an urban. They have to meet or exceed the average wage of the county that they have chosen. The chosen community must supply a reasonable match, and the customer must have a valid but-for. So those are the 4 things that you can talk about in an elevator as you go up a building to talk to a customer about TRI. So those are the requirements. Let's focus in a little more, though, on the average county wage. Historically, the average annual county wage has been set the year a company applies for TRI credit, and it has remained fixed throughout their term of their TRI contract. So in other words, an awardee's average annual county wage amount has not changed over the life of the award, even though the actual average annual county wages may have changed annually, and they typically have risen over time. So in sum, average county wage was set for the term of the contract. Then on April 22nd, the Idaho Economic Advisory Council voted and approved a change to the TRI program regarding the qualification of meeting or exceeding the average county wage. And what it was changed to is this. For applications submitted after July 1st, 2021, to qualify for TRI, companies will be subject to an average annual county wage that may change each year during the life of the contract. Thus, if the applicable average county wage in fact really does change, to satisfy this updated policy, the company must adjust its average wages in their subsequent tax year. So they'll know prior to the tax year where they will have to meet the new wages. And then in that tax year, they will have to meet or exceed the average county wage. Companies will be given at least 6 months notice of their new required average wage number. So we have many frequently asked questions. I don't know if they're frequently asked, but we thought they might be, so that's what we called them. When will this change go into effect? And the answer is it will be effective for applications approved after July 1st. Well, what about existing TRI contracts? The answer, existing TRI awards/contracts will be grandfathered. Where do I find the current average county wages? Well, the current average county wages are posted on the Commerce website under the tax reimbursement incentive. And we've got a screenshot that I'll share in a second, but those are updated once a year in July, and we get those from our friends at Idaho Labor. On this page, the third paragraph down, the second bullet in hyperlink, it does say average county wages. And you can go there anytime if you're out seeing a customer, it can be right at your fingertips to see what the average county wage is that we are using. Next slide. Well, so how do average wages look for existing TRI awardees? We did look at this, and it's generally expected that employers need to keep current with average wages in their industry in order to attract or retain employees. And in general, companies that are receiving their TRI awards are meeting that expectation. Next question. So how can a company or site selector plan or account for the average county wage changing annually? So we did an analysis of the average statewide year-over-year growth in average county wages, and it grows about 2.5% a year. And we can even get that down to a county if a customer is interested, and we can show them what has happened wage growth wise in a county. And also we know from experience that businesses who are doing business plans commonly use 3 to 5% annual pay increase when budgeting. So if you have a customer who wonders if they can meet TRI and they're doing their business case, they could plug in either one of these percentages and see how their business case would be affected by that growth. So any other TRI questions, we'll open it up here in a minute to all of you, but can be directed to myself and Eva. The business attraction group, and I tend to take pre-sale questions on TRI, the application. Eva is the post-awards person with her team, and they have a very important job because they make sure customers get their checks for TRI and are much appreciated by our customers. So do you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to talk about? Well, I heard crickets, unless somebody's talking and it is on mute.
Susie, I have, this is Jackie from the City of Lewiston. I do have one question, and I haven't used the TRI with any of our clients or customers, and Scott from Valley Vision would probably be more directed. But I do have a question on the rural and urban. What designates rural and urban? Is it a population number or?
It is a population number, and it's 25,000. It's rural. Okay. 25,000 and below. Or unincorporated areas in a county can also be rural.
Okay.
And also, if you all have questions, we have a document, it's about 20 pages long, where we have defined Idaho and and what is urban and what is rural. So if you have one you have a question about, we can look it up there too. Thank you, Jackie. Well, thank you, everyone. It's been lovely sharing this afternoon with you. And in closing, I would say of the resounding success of TRI and those 80 that we have approved, all 80 of them, we have worked with one or two or more of you to make it happen, because as we know, it takes a village to get these things done. And it's really been a pleasure working with all of you to make TRI and Idaho a success.
Susie, sorry for the late question, but will this deck be available to us going forward?
Sure. Well, and the video will be available too.
Okay, I'd just love to have the numbers, the overall effect that TRI has had. Those are fantastic numbers, and congratulations to the team. You guys have been amazing to work with on this since 2014. It's really worked well, obviously.
Yay. Thank you, Clark. Anything else, Tom, before we sign off?
No, I was just thinking of Clark's question. Hi, Clark. And just online, though, we have our annual reports on TRI, right? So we update those at the end of every fiscal year, usually publish them and load them sometime in December or January. We have a duty to get those reports out to the legislature in the upcoming session. So we do have through last June 30th up till then. So that 80 is up through the current period. So we're still got a couple more months to go here, a month and a half for the next update. But they are online, and they give a little bit more detail than what Susie's put together in this really good PowerPoint today.
I do have a quick question.
Thank you, Tom.
You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, Doug, go ahead.
What's the legislature going to do to the TRI? They're after everything else, it seems like. Do you have any idea? Is this going to be able to remain an incentive, a tool for us to utilize?
Susie, you want me to answer that?
Yeah. Now, being the glass half full girl, I think we're okay, but let's listen to Tom.
First of all, Doug, I need to see you in person because I don't recognize you on screen. But but you know, it was challenged, I think, 3 times. And when I came on board as Director of Commerce, I was named to the only lawsuit I've ever been a part of, and hopefully that'll be the only one I will ever be a part of. And it settled favorably. So again, the Supreme Court sided with the legislature in this incentive, and with the delegation to the executive branch in commerce to oversee it. But it's really subject to what the legislature would like to do going forward. So it's pretty much in that zone in terms of its future. So we'll see. But it could be challenged again and taken to, who knows, taken to court again. But it's withstood a few different challenges. But it's still, subject to, it's a bill or it's a law, and it's subject to legislator review, I'm sure, from time to time. But it has no sunset. Is that correct, Susie? I don't think it has a sunset from my recollection. So,
unlike Business Advantage that does have that sunset, the founders of TRI did not put one in, and so that's a good thing.
Well, you understand our concern with the way this property tax relief bill has gone, which is why I kept myself on mute for a long time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, Doug.
Susie, do you mind if I say something real quick?
No, go ahead.
So just to everybody on the call, this is Eva, the back end of the TRI program. I just wanted to say that, just to clarify, and this might be the sort of overarching point for me, is that any application that's complete, that's submitted before July 1st, will be grandfathered. So I'm not trying to push you all, but I just want you to know that that's sort of the overall arching. Anything that's submitted after July 1st that's completed will be subject to these new rules. So if you have any concerns about pending projects or anything that's happening in the future, make sure to talk with us sooner rather than later.
Good point, Eva, to try to clarify the cutoff. It's good.
So this is Jeff McCurdy, if I could just ask a quick question. So in the event that a company, so the county average wage raises and the company no longer is eligible for that, does that more or less eliminate them from their TRI award going forward? Or is there some leeway in there to help them get back on track?
So Jeff, I can answer that. It's when you receive the TRI award, you are subject to hitting the requirements every year. So if they don't meet the minimum requirement for the average wage in 1 year, that does not mean that they don't get it the next year. Every year is a new hit, so they have to hit the requirements every year. So in that case, if the next year they don't hit the average wage requirement, then they would lose it for another year, but that would not eliminate their TRI incentive. It may eliminate a year or two or however long, depending on when they hit that average wage, but they're subject to that new average wage and hitting that new average wage every year.
Thank you.
And Eva, to expand upon that, so Jeff, if they had a 10-year award and they first 2 or 3 years, they hit both the average county wage hurdle and the number of jobs, but then they fail the next year or two, they still have a horizon of 10 years, right, Eva? So they've got their 10-year period of time, but they still have to meet the hurdles, whether it be average county wage or employment numbers, to be eligible for that award.
Correct, and that's true for all TRI projects. If you have every year to hit that average wage and job number. This time the average wage will be more fluid, but you could start over fresh next year as well. And you would just lose that 1 year of your incentive.
Thank you for the clarification.
And I will give it to Eva's team. We had a company who will remain nameless, but years ago when this very first started, that didn't meet their average wage, and they were horrified. You know, it was something they didn't keep their eye on, and but they, crying out loud, we need to raise our employees' wages and utilize this great incentive to do that. So although they missed a year, they rallied and came back and got it the next year.
Susie, this is Ben with BVEP. I have a question.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Idaho. Was that a case of employee wages then, not meeting that threshold in that particular case?
Yeah.
Okay. And then my other question was regarding TRI. What has the business community been saying? Those, I mean, certainly the numbers speak for themselves, in being a good thing, but what is the business community saying that is the strengths and weaknesses of it? I mean, I should say those that do receive TRI. Have you gotten any feedback?
We've gotten, and for those that have gotten their awards, I think it's been all positive.
Okay.
From those site selectors and BVEP, and everyone feel free to chime in, but site selectors are pretty impressed with it when they bring their companies here. Makes them look good because we have this incentive. I think they are always kind of surprised that you can get business advantage and TRI both. So I think that's a good thing too. The only thing I think that started in the beginning, we actually had a site selector say this the other day, which was sort of interesting, is we have had site selectors say, Well, can't we just use the wages that are above the average county wage and not use the ones that are below when we figure this out? They want to bifurcate those, and that it just doesn't make sense. But we do not allow that. It has to be all of your employees' average wage has to meet or exceed the average county wage. That doesn't mean every employee has to, but everybody's wage has to average above the average county wage. Do you have anything to add, Eva, with companies that you've worked with, that you've given awards?
I would say that most of the feedback I get is pretty positive. I think the only negative feedback is how much verification they have to go through in order to get their award. But honestly, that makes me feel more comfortable with the program, and we have a very open communication, and every year it is getting easier for those companies who have been here with on the TRI incentive for a while. But definitely going forward, we have gotten a lot better at those communications and getting these done quicker. And you know, the biggest problem is there's turnover in companies, and it gets given to somebody else to do. So we do have a lot of trainings at the beginning of the year to get people set up for success for these annual reports.
Got it. Thank you both.
Thanks,
I would
Grant.
just add to that. I'm going to brag again about our Commerce Department, as they've done an incredible job of turnaround. I mean, if you put a pre-app in or you put an application in, you're given a value right away, which they're not getting in other states that are surrounding us. It takes a lot more to actually get any type of amount back of what the commitment's going to be on behalf of the state. And again, kudos to the team that you have there, Susie and Tom and Eva. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you, Clark. All right. Going. God. All right, we'll give you the gift of time. Know that we value all of you on this call, and we appreciate your friendship and all your hard work. So, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.